What's up, everyone? Welcome to Prop Drop. I'm your host, Sean Koerner, aka the Oddsmaker, and I'm taking a break from my Saturday projections process to drop a few official props I've found so far. My first prop will be in the Titans-Lions game. It's going to be a defensive prop, a tackles plus assist prop. Basically the same odds wherever you can find that. But before I get to that, if you want access to all of Action Pro's projections, make sure to sign up for our annual subscription that is currently on sale. Access includes exclusive player prop picks from yours truly and other members of the Action Analytics team. You'll also get access to exclusive expert articles, our best spread, money line, and total bets, and real ticket and money percentages. To sign up, visit actionnetwork.com/pro today and use code PROPS20 at signup. One more time, that's PROPS20 at signup for $20 off. All right, so as I mentioned, my first prop's going to be a tackles plus assist prop in this Titans-Lions game. For those of you that don't know, I brushed off my IDP model last week, starting to fire it up. It's in much better shape than it was last year. Last year, I started creating this model, and it is 100 times better now. This is my favorite prop on the board right now, and it's Terrion Arnold of the Lions under 3.5 tackles plus assists. You can get it at -125 at DraftKings right now. They're going up against the Titans this week. And for those of you that don't know, Arnold plays cornerback for the Lions. He was their first round pick this year out of Alabama. And he's only cleared this in 2 of 6 games this year. The 2 times he cleared it, of course, were week 1 against the Rams when both Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua were both healthy. They both dropped 18 receptions combined that week. And the other time he went over was week 4 against the Seahawks, where their trio of stud wide receivers combined for 20 receptions. So those are the types of games where Arnold will absolutely clear this prop. However, he's going up against the Titans this week, and they provide very little tackles for cornerbacks. In fact, at one of the lowest rates in the league. And Arnold typically stays on the outside, so he's typically going to be matched up against either Calvin Ridley or Nick Westbrook-Ikhine for most of the snaps of this game. So that's not going to translate to a ton of targets or tackle opportunities. He's also really not involved in run defense at all. He made 1 run defensive tackle all season. So, early on, even if the Titans are run heavy, he's not really going to be involved in those either. So this is going to be a tough prop for him to clear. The Lions have actually faced around 25.5 completions per game, and Mason Rudolph's completions prop is only 20 here. So in theory, he should have 5.5 fewer completions to even potentially get a tackle. So I love the under on this. I'm projecting it closer to 2.7 with about a 70% chance he stays under 3.5. So love the value we're getting there at -125. And for my second prop, let's go to the Ravens-Browns game. It's going to be in the longest rush market. This is really the same number price everywhere that offers this specific market. So pretty much, any book that offers this market, it's going to be good there. Going to give everyone, just a second to pull that game up. And my shirt is actually giving away the color of the team that this guy plays for. And it's Nick Chubb of the Browns. His longest rush to stay under 12.5 yards here. You can get it at +100 over at DraftKings. Going up against the Ravens this week. So while it was nice to see Nick Chubb back in action last week after such a devastating knee injury last year, it's great to see him back. He did show, quite some burst last week, considering the injury came back from last year. But it still might take him a few games to really get up to speed, regain some of that form he saw pre-injury. He may never be the elite back we saw before the injury, unfortunately. I hope he proves me wrong, of course. he's averaged over 5 yards per carry in each of his first 6 seasons of his career, but it's hard to imagine doing that at this stage of his career, coming off such a massive injury. Plus, the Browns' offensive line, typically one of their strengths, has not been good this year. According to ESPN's run block win rate, they rank 26th in the league. They've been dealing with a ton of injuries. Left tackle Jedrick Wills has already been ruled out. So again, this isn't the same elite offensive line Nick Chubb has been running behind in previous years anyway. So this is also just a brutal matchup, especially for this market. The Ravens have only allowed 2 running backs all season to have a rush of 13 plus yards. So while, Chubb should see his usage ramp up this week, it's just hard to see him getting too many carries in this spot, considering the Browns are facing the Ravens. This will probably be a trailing, pass-heavy game script, especially with Jameis Winston under center. So, he should bounce back, have better efficiency than we saw last week, but it's hard to see it here, especially since Nick Chubb throughout his career has typically run outside the tackles at a pretty high rate, among one of the league highs year in, year out. This year so far, just based off of last week, he ran inside 66% of the time, which is one of the highest rates of the season. I doubt that keeps up, but if he keeps running inside, that goes right into the strength of this Ravens defense. They've allowed 1% of inside runs to go for 10 plus yards. So again, every yard in this market is massive. So while I'm projecting his median closer to 11 yards here, which would just make him the 3rd running back all season to have a run of 10 plus yards, it still puts him about 60% chance he stays under 12.5. So again, getting just a yard of value in a market like this is massive. So, projecting him to stay under 60% of the time, and we're getting even odds for this. So like the value on the under here. And for my 3rd and final prop, let's stick with a longest rush prop, and let's go to the Falcons-Buccaneers game. Gonna give everyone some time to pull this game up, get this market ready to go. But this is the same situation where pretty much any book that offers this market has him at the same number, the same price. I'll reference DraftKings for the price and number, but again, I think every single book has this exactly the same price wherever you can find it. And just give everybody a second. I'm not glitching out here. All right. Without further ado, Tyler Algier of the Falcons, longest rush over 12.5 yards, -110 over at DraftKings. For those of you that listen to the Fantasy Flex with Raybon and I gush about this running back all the time. I think he's one of the best backup running backs in the league. Unfortunately, he's back up to one of the best running backs in the league in Bijan Robinson. So it's always tricky to project his workload. He's very game script dependent. So last week, for example, the Falcons got blown out by the Seahawks. So he only saw 5 carries. However, he did break one loose for 24 yards. So he's the kind of back that doesn't even need a ton of work to clear this specific market. So I like attacking him for that reason. But this week, the Falcons, they're slight road favorites. They're -2.5 against the Buccaneers, who just suffered some devastating injuries with both, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin out. So the Falcons are more likely to have a leading game script here, which could, result in a few more rushes for Tyler Algier. But, the Buccaneers, they have a pretty solid run defense. They rank 9th in DVOA against the run. They're pretty good on inside runs because, of course, Vita Vea helping inside on those runs makes them, pretty tough to run inside. However, outside runs are where they have some issues. They've allowed the most rushing yards over expected on outside runs, according to Next Gen Stats. That sets up perfectly for Algier, who runs outside at the 3rd highest rate among qualified running backs. Plus, slot cornerback Tyke Smith is out for the Bucks. He's been solid in run defense, and he's the kind of player that would stop Algier on an outside run too. So just another underlying factor going Algiers' way. So that's why I prefer Algier in this market specifically. I think he's going to rip off a bigger run here. The tricky thing with him is you can never really project how many carries he'll get because he's game script dependent, but I think he does rip off an explosive run here. I'm projecting his median closer to 14 yards. So around a 60% chance he'll clear 12 and a half yards. Again, this is just a perfect matchup for the way he runs specifically. And maybe we get a positive game script here and get close to 10 carries, which will only help his chances of clearing this even more. All right, so let's go back to the mailbag. I picked out 3 questions that piqued my interest that I saw on Twitter, and the first one is from Spencer Karasek, and he says, "Hey, the evens maker, wondering what your thoughts are on running back running back the tight end Grant Calcaterra over receiving yards this week. Thanks." Of course, he is referencing to evens maker. Is the self-made nickname I gave myself last week because due to this bizarre pattern where I've been having rough odd number weeks while having incredible even number weeks, I'm looking to change my handle for good if this continues. Luckily, the good has outweighed the bad so far, and luckily, we're in an even number week in week 8, so good things should be coming. Back to the question. Last week, I gave out Calcaterra's over receiving yards. I had speculated he would be a near 1-for-1 replacement for Dallas Goedert. That really turned out to be true. He ran a route on 83% of Jalen Hurts dropbacks last week, which is, right in line with an elite usage we would see from a tight end like Dallas Goedert. Unfortunately, the Eagles didn't have to throw much. They just won easily. They just leaned on Saquon Barkley in a revenge spot. So Jalen Hurts only he only attempted 14 passes last week. Kind of hard to clear receiving yard props when the quarterback only attempts 14 pass attempts. So sure enough, Calcaterra caught 1 catch for 5 yards. Devonta Smith only caught 1 pass for -2 yards. So it was a horrible environment to be on a receiving yards over. This week should be much different. They're facing the Bengals. This should be a closer, potentially trailing game script for the Eagles. So I'm expecting way more than 14 passes from Jalen Hurts this week. So yeah, I'm showing value on Calcaterra's over. I think the last I checked, his prop was around 22.5. I would say the median is closer to 26.5, 27.5. So yeah, I'm showing value at 22.5. I probably won't be on it, which means it'll absolutely win this week. It's an even week. Good things are happening. So yes, I do think there's some value on Calcaterra running it back this week and going over 22.5 receiving yards. All right, the second question is from Stephen Harb. How are you looking at the utilization of players on the Bucks? I'd imagine it's more difficult than normal due to the wide receiver injuries and the 3 running backs. Anyone who stands out? Yeah, you would be correct that it is more difficult with both starting. The top 2 wide receivers are out. We now have a 3-headed monster running back committee that I don't know what the hell to do with it. So yeah, this is a very tricky, situation to project or invest money in right now, if I'm being honest. So when it comes to the wide receivers, I'm expecting Jalen McMillan, Trey Palmer, and Sterling Shepard to basically be the 3 wide receivers out there most of the snaps. So I have all of their projected medians in the upper 30s, and that's where the market has it. I haven't seen any Sterling Shepard props pop up yet, but again, his prop should be in the 37.5 range. So if it's like extremely above that or extremely below that, I might be interested. But either way, it looks like the market has this correctly priced out. Of course, Cade Otton is also a beneficiary. The market looks about right, having his receiving yards prop around 45. So not seeing much value there. And the running back situation is even worse because, again, this turned into a 3-way committee last week where, they kind of went with the hot hand approach. But Bucky Irving's, dealing with a toe injury. He's questionable. Looks like he's going to play. But again, that injects even more uncertainty in the situation because we just don't know if Bucky Irving will be limited in any capacity, that would, result in more carries for Rachaad White or Sean Tucker. So this is just a really tricky situation. Last week I took the risk of fading Rachaad White on his rush attempt under. That did not turn out well. And the reason is, he's going to be out there for passing downs no matter what. Even if, Sean Tucker or Bucky Irving get the hot hand on early downs, it'll still be White out there on, passing situations. So if they have a third and long and White's out there and they convert a first down, Rachaad White's going to stay in the game. They typically, go no huddle, get to the line, and run the ball. So Rachaad White is able to rack up some rush attempts just by being, their pass catching back. So I noticed that last week. They converted a few third and longs, which unfortunately, led to him getting a few more carries, led to me losing that prop. So, long story short, I am not betting on any, wide receiver props, running back props this week whatsoever with the Buccaneers. We have plenty of games to bet on. I'm passing on this one. All right, the last question's from Will. Do you like rushing yards over prop for Javonte Williams? I think in theory, this is a very sharp angle to consider when looking at this game and how to attack it. I know my colleague Nick Giffen has an angle on this as well. Go check out his props he's putting out today. But when it comes to Javonte Williams specifically, he had a slow start to the season, but he's been playing way better these past few weeks. So he is absolutely a player I'm interested in investing in, and especially in a spot where the Broncos, they're favored by 11.5 points against the Bryce Young-led Panthers. Should see way more rushing volume here, should see way more efficiency. The Panthers rank 31st in rush DVOA on the season, so there's really no reason to fade Javonte here. Unfortunately, I think the market's accounted for this. They have his prop pretty high right now, mid to upper 60s. Sounds about right. But this is a spot we could see Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime just more involved because, again, this is a game they should win pretty easily. Probably want to scale back Javonte's rush attempts later in the game if you can. Plus, Javonte is going to be out there for most passing situations. So I think maybe the safer way to invest in Javonte would be to attack his rushing plus receiving yards market, just in case, he gets an explosive play in the passing game. Plus, this is a game where, again, the Broncos should win comfortably. Maybe Bo Nix is less aggressive passing it downfield. Maybe Bo Nix is actually less willing to scramble because why even risk injury in this game? Why take extra shots if you don't have to? Dump it off to your running back. So this is a spot, I could see potentially more targets for Javonte in the backfield. So I think, his total yards, so rushing and plus receiving yards market might be a bit safer here. But again, I think investing in the running backs in this game is a sharp way to go. So I think you hit the nail on the head. It's a very sharp angle to take. Right. That's going to do it for week 8 of Prop Drop. Thanks for joining me. Going to get back to updating my projections. Definitely locking in some more props. Definitely locking in some more tackle props. So be sure you're following me in our Action app. You can follow me at _Oddsmaker. It's still Oddsmaker for now. Might have to change it to Evensmaker if we have another fantastic even week. Best of luck with all your week 8 bets, and we will see you again right here next week.